Jay, I have 3 clips I want to play you. They're about a minute to a minute and a half each. It'll be about 3 minutes total from different media members across the country. Not local. These are national media members speaking on the current situation of the Browns quarterback decision. This first one comes from Dan Orlovsky on Get Up This Morning.
The Cleveland Browns are in the worst situation in pro sports. They're done, and so is Deshaun Watson. If you want to see a situation where the head coach has absolutely no say of who's playing on the field, it's happening in Cleveland. Kevin Stefanski is a 2-time coach of the year. He's a brilliant offensive mind. And this offense looks nothing like the offense that he won 2-time coach of the year with. They're in an awful situation. And by every measure, if you just watch the game and then you look at the stats, their offensive performance, and specifically Deshaun Watson's offensive performance, is the worst in the NFL. They're done.
Should they bench him?
Yes, they should have benched him week 1. Week 1, they should have started thinking about Jameis Winston.
You did say that,
But I don't think this is a head coach decision, and I don't think this is a general manager decision. I truly believe this is from the owner, because there's no way that you would watch this football tape over the last 5 weeks and say that's our best opportunity. Look, this is why it's the worst situation in pro sports. $150 million.
They still own.
$150 million.
Yeah, to be clear.
They might have $150 million guaranteed to a quarterback and justify taking a first-round draft pick at quarterback next year.
So that was Dan Orlovsky.
Yeah, I don't know that he's plugged in enough or has contacts in the Browns locker room to speak on that definitively. I think he's just giving his opinion there. But when Chris Sims said it yesterday,
well, we have that. We're going to get to those. Yep.
When you listen to this, think about this. I think Sims said it with a little more authority, and he's removed from the league as well. But I think he might be hearing this from someone in the organization that knows, because it didn't sound like he was guessing. He sounded like he was making a definitive statement.
Well, I think it's common sense just watching.
I agree. And Orlovsky, by the way, nothing he said was not true.
There's no way.
Nothing he said.
There is no way Kevin Stefanski wants to keep playing Deshaun Watson.
No.
Well, we're going to hear these next 2 clips, and then we'll dive into it. They're both from Chris Sims as part of an NBC discussion. Other ones a play breakdown. Here's the first one from the NBC pregame show last night.
Right now, Deshaun Watson, with his contract, the trade they made to the Houston Texans, has totally handcuffed the whole organization. If it was any other quarterback in football, we would be talking about benching him.
Yeah, that was the Lowe's home team help. But let's talk about Kevin Stefanski saying after the game that's not the plan. He's sticking with Deshaun Watson.
I think you guys chime in here, but I think it goes back to the owner and the GM a little bit here.
Yeah, your number one job as a head coach is to play the right guys, the guys that give you the best chance to win. And you can't watch the Cleveland Browns and say this guy gives you the best chance to win. You lose credibility in the locker room when you let other factors come involved. Money, when he was drafted, how long the contract is. He's got to sit back and take courage, Kevin Stefanski, and say, what's the best thing for our team? I think right now, give Jameis Winston a shot. Maybe there's some new energy. Maybe there's a spark in this team. It doesn't mean this is the decision for the rest of your life. You can make a two-way decision. Right. A few weeks from now, maybe you bring him back into it. But they can't go down the road that they're going down right now. They have no chance to win.
And you have to do that because the guys in the locker room. Think about if you're playing defense right now, we always talk about those quarterbacks that always give the team hope. I know we can win. We got that. They don't have that right now. The defense isn't looking at Deshaun Watson like, if we make this stop, he'll go win. I think this defense is coming into games like, hey, it doesn't matter what we do.
If we don't win, we're not going to win.
They're going to find a way to lose the game on the other side.
Well, what about, do you think Stefanski even has the power to make that call? That's the big thing. I think it's an ownership GM thing that's getting involved here right now.
So guys, I'll ask that very question to you guys. Who's making the call on the quarterback? Is it Kevin Stefanski or is it someone above? Jason?
Well, I'll go back to 2021. You mentioned the Baker season in 2021. That was an ownership-driven decision to play Baker, even through the shoulder injury. I've said this a million times. They were trying to make a decision on his contract and whether or not to extend him. The answer internally at that point was no. They wanted more evidence he was worth it. So even though he was hurt, they kept running him out there. It was an ownership-driven decision.
Which, think about how irresponsible that is, Jason. He's not giving you an accurate take as to who he is or what he can do.
Yes, but if you don't play him at all, the answer was no.
Okay, then the answer is no. Then move on.
Yeah, but while you can't really disagree with that. But I'm just saying that was the reason why they kept running him out there. That was an ownership-driven decision to keep running him out there because they had to make a decision on whether or not to extend him and give him another contract. So I fully believe this is another ownership-driven decision that And to go back, I don't want to go all the way back to where we were, but it is important to say, like, when you invest the money that they invested in Deshaun, when you give up the trade capital that they gave up to get him, of course you want to do everything you can to try and make it work. So, I mean, I've talked to people across the sports. I've talked to NBA people and NFL people who said, yeah, you got to do whatever you can to try and make this guy comfortable and make him happy. And so that's why.
At what point do you pull ripcord?
Now. Okay. We're there.
So we've seen enough.
Yeah, it didn't work. Like, you tried revamping the offense, but you also, we've talked about this on the show, you don't have the personnel to match the system. You touched on it earlier. I wrote about it a couple weeks ago. They have the slowest receivers in the league. And they don't create separation. I can give you all the data you want to back that up. So why are they trying to run a spread type system with downfield throws when they don't have the speed and they don't have the guys who can create separation? They don't have the personnel to match the scheme. They're trying to fit the entire scheme around one guy. And guess what? He can't do it anymore either.
The GM, listen, at some point, y'all are responsible for picking the players. How many times have I told you about Project Stockpile? And this is the thing I get so annoyed with. Every single time there's a receiver's name mentioned, every single time there's like, hey, you need to go up in the draft and get a receiver. You need to trade up. No. We like our receiver room. Okay, well, how much you like it right now?
I think you can win with these receivers if you play the way that they're meant to be played, and it's not this.
This is who we had last year.
Yeah,
and it worked.
Well, here's
a different offense.
Here's the thing: they ain't gonna let you bench him, and they ain't gonna let you make that move, well, guess what? There are a couple of things that you can do. You can revert back to what you were calling. You can revert back and say, you know what, that offense ain't going to work. We better figure out a way to pivot.
Well, they may view that as a fireable offense, too.
Well, listen, if you can't call the offense and you can't bench nobody, you're not a coach anymore.
That's what.
Just quit.
100% agree. Are you the head coach or are you a puppet?
Yeah.
And right now, he's a puppet. And unfortunately, it's a shame because he's a good man and a good coach. We're seeing global decisions being made by a guy who made his fortune running a truck stop. And I've told this story a number of times on the air. One of the 3 ESPN insiders that was part of this discussion, there were 3 of them against me, when they were all 3 begging me, pick a new team. One of the 3 texted me again yesterday, and I looked back. I hadn't heard from him in over a year. I looked back, and the last time he texted me was when Deshaun Watson was not playing well earlier in the season, and he said, I begged you then, I'm begging you still. Yesterday, I get another text. It says, I've tried telling you, this conversation goes back almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
And his premise was, please pick a new team, and here's why. Jimmy's never selling. Jimmy thinks he's a football mind, and Jimmy makes decisions he has no business making. And then he brought in JW and said, and by the way, if it's not Jimmy, it's going to be his son-in-law, whose only qualification to run a football team is he married the right girl. And this is stuff I've been hearing from these guys for almost 10 years. And as I'm watching all this dumpster fire Sunday after Sunday, I hear those voices swimming in my head. And if this in fact was, like, somebody texted me yesterday, not these guys, someone texted me yesterday and said, what percentage of Browns fans do you think would push the button and just right now trade Deshaun for Baker? And here was my reply. See, it's so much worse than that. 100% of Browns fans would say, give me Baker.
No, not 100.
Man,
but
then,
over
you
90.
know what? Then
over
those
90.
those whatever 2 or 3%,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
you're helpless. I can't do anything
Yeah.
for you. Whatever percentage that is, you just say, give me Baker today and take Deshaun. I said, that's not the issue. Give me Baker and give me 3 first-round draft picks over the last 3 years, 2 third-round draft picks, and a 4th-round draft pick.
Yeah.
Because that's what we don't have on our team today that we should.
Yeah.
Who made that decision? You tell me.
To go for Deshaun?
Yep. Let's get rid of Baker. Let's go for Deshaun.
Now, listen, you take Kevin Stefanski's word for it. He said that everybody was on board in the organization with going to get Deshaun Watson.
Of course he's going to say that. He's a good company guy.
Listen,
He also stood in front of the mic yesterday and said, I'm going to keep playing Deshaun, and it's my decision.
At some point,
he's a good company man.
At some point, you're going to you keep saying it's my decision and it's on me. they're going to fire you.
And you damage yourself down the road for potential other jobs.
No, he doesn't.
Well, at some point, he's got to stand up for himself.
If he gets fired, the entire league is going to know, oh, well, he was in Cleveland.
Yeah, well, they already
It doesn't
know.
count.
No,
It doesn't
they
count.
they already know.
But in the terms of whose decision was it, all the information I have up until this point was AB was the first on board with pursuing him. And
so it was his initial idea. It wasn't the owner
I
saying.
don't know that necessarily Barry wanted to go to the lengths that they wound up going in terms of contract and guaranteed money and all that. I can't say with certainty. I
Well,
don't
he
know.
had to get permission from the owner to do that.
of
That was an
course.
unprecedented contract.
Yes. I'm saying that's an owner call to
Yeah.
230 guaranteed.
Because after Deshaun said no, I'm not going to play in Cleveland, and the next day the deal was done. To me, that's Jimmy. Jimmy went and said, "Make it happen."
Listen, Jimmy gets what Jimmy wants. They're gonna
And
build,
and so do we.
They're gonna build a dome in Brook Park.
Sure they are.
Because that's what Jimmy
Yeah.
wants. It doesn't matter who says no. It doesn't matter what county officials or city officials or whoever pushes back. And if he pays for it himself, go ahead, do whatever you want. I don't care.
He is going to get what he wants.
But Jimmy gets what Jimmy wants.
And you know what? We have to live with it.
And Jimmy wanted Deshaun. So Jimmy's going to get. Now, again, it was made, everything I've been told was AB was on board first. Now, is there a line where you say, all right, you know what, we've reached a point, this probably isn't a good idea in terms of money, and he already told, I don't know the details.
When you say first, does that mean that Stefanski had to be talked into it?
No, I just mean AB was the first to say, we need to look into this.
Let's do this.
So,
Okay.
so let's be clear though. If you got Baker Mayfield, and I'm gonna look at it from Haslam's point of view. Hey, y'all think Baker good enough for this extension? Coaching staff is like, I don't know. Because we're not gonna act like the coaching staff was in the front office was in love with Baker Mayfield's performance.
They clearly were not.
Now, if you
Jimmy
go,
Haslam did not love Baker either.
oh, okay. Nope. Well, if you go and you say your honest opinion and your expert opinion is, you know what, we need to move on for Baker.
Yeah.
Right? So you go to the owner, tell him, you say, cool, what's our alternative? They said there's a guy out there named Deshaun Watson. How much is it going to cost? And you got some allegations with him. All right, well, let's go look at it. If I'm Jimmy Haslam and we pulled him away to move, then you go to me and you say, okay, well, to make the roster around us complete because we gave up a lot of assets, we're going to have to keep front-loading these contracts to keep kind of giving them these bonuses so we can do which he's done. Then you get 5 games into the season. Jimmy Haslam sitting here, and he's like, this ain't it. This ain't it. This looks terrible. I'm embarrassed. People keep bringing my – because that's the one thing he don't want. He does not want his name brought up for any on-the-field garbage. He wants to get a stadium.
Oh, it is, though.
But it is.
Yesterday and today?
Today.
All signs are pointing to this is Jimmy Haslam.
So what he's saying to Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry is, listen, I trusted you when you said Baker was done and don't give him no deal. Now look what he's doing. I don't like that. That looks like it's on me. Now you say go get Deshaun Watson. We went and got Deshaun Watson. You said it will change the offense. You changed the offense, and it still don't look good. They said, listen, we might want to bench him. He's like 5 games in, and I'm paying. I done already paid out this money.
He's gonna keep paying too.
No, man. Listen, I'm gonna get my money's worth out of this Lamborghini.
And you know
That's
what?
his thought.
You can die trying to shove that square peg into the round hole.
But
it's not going to fit.
At this point, as a man of his wealth and magnitude, you think he cares? I think he.
Well, I do think he cares.
I don't think he cares that as of today it looks bad, but he could take 4 more weeks of it. He's like, no, I'm going to ride this out until the wheels fall off.
Here's the problem.
By the way, I think I don't know if it was McCourty or it may have been Jason Garrett. Somebody said the defense is clearly affected by what they're seeing out of the offense.
Oh, I totally believe that. Yeah.
And I do too. I think they want to play well. They want to play hard. Up until even when it was 14 points, they had played okay. They gave up the 65-yard pass and they gave up the long run. But other than that, they were playing well. But then it felt like, okay, we can't push this boulder back up the hill, so you just let it roll over you.
One thing about Jason Garrett saying it's not forever. Yes, it is forever. If you bench Deshaun, that's it.
I totally disagree
I don't
with
know
that dude.
what
are you going to do? Unless if Jameis plays well in 3 weeks, you're going to say, okay, let's go back to Deshaun now?
I'll take it a step further. I don't know if I was going to say this or not, but I will say it. You need to play DTR sooner than later in this season.
Figure out what he is.
You need to figure out what he is.
I agree.
Because you're going to be into the quarterback hunt game here again, and you can't wait till December to play DTR.
I agree.
Now, there's risk. and I talk about this all the time. It's not about the one; it's about the other 52.
I know.
And if you run DTR out there, you're really running the risk of losing a lot of these guys, a lot of these
haven't
veterans.
They lost them already?
That's the other side of this. Is you're close to losing
Myles
them
Garrett,
anyway.
His name, as far as the box score is concerned, Myles Garrett didn't go to Washington.
Here's the thing.
He didn't show up in the stat sheet.
But here's the thing. What are you accomplishing by playing Jameis Winston?
I think what it does, Jason, is right now this is a feeling of hopelessness and embarrassment. If you trot him out there, look how many times this has happened in league history. Hell, it happened here last year.
Yeah.
Look how many times the backup comes in and gives the team a spark. Now, there might be already a fait accompli amongst the front office saying, well, we're not in it to win games now. Let's get the best pick we can get.
I honestly think this is going to get to the point. I truly believe this.
Tanking?
You send Deshaun home.
Yes.
Send him home.
I think he's a negative influence on the team. Get him out of the locker Cleveland
room.
And wash your hands of the deal and eat the $230 million pill.
Houston did it in 2021.
Yep.
They carried him on the roster. They paid him all year, and they sent him home.
Let me tell you this. Right now. You send him home, you can kiss about 60%. Myles Garrett is done.
Listen, I think that's an absolute fair point.
You send him home. You got to understand. Kevin Stefanski has a penchant to send people home. He sent Odell Beckham Jr. home.
Sure.
And the locker room did not like that. It signals it's over. We waving a white flag. And if you're Myles Garrett, and if you're Denzel Ward, or you're Amari Cooper, you think that that signals a rebuild.
I don't know. Are you assuming that all those guys want to keep going with Deshaun?
No,
that's a big assumption.
No, what I'm assuming is Myles Garrett has played here the rest of his whole career, and you have not been close to getting to a championship.
They've done a total disservice.
And guess what? I know for a fact, and I know for a fact, the words is he's not going to be Joe Thomas.
No, he's not. I think he's gone.
Joe Thomas sacrificed his whole career here, and he had nothing to show for it because of infighting, doing all kind of dumb stuff with quarterbacks. But you asked Joe Thomas.
He never won.
We asked him. I asked him point blank, Jay. I asked him on the show, would you take the ring or the jacket? He said the jacket is nice, but we played a game to win. And I never had that opportunity. He stayed loyal. I'm gonna tell you this: you sit him down, which you might have to. I told you, I'm on a record. Hey, give me Jameis Winston. But here's the thing: if you play Jameis Winston can move people in the locker room. Jameis Winston is a former first overall pick, and it will save some people from saying, "Immediately trade me. I don't want to be here. This is not what I'm signing up for."
I'm not saying play DTR this week. I'm not saying that, and I'm not saying send Deshaun home this week. I'm saying I think it's going to get to that point.
If it gets to that point, they got to send him to the crib. We're looking at a complete rebuild.
Well, no, we are. I mean,
but what difference does it make if he's at home or if he's sitting on the bench? I think they need to remove him from the building.
The thing is, you said we're looking at a complete rebuild. I think history is going to record this trade as, if not the worst, in the history of the NFL.
It's the worst.
See, the only reason that I'm not completely ready to go there yet is because a trade has two partners. The Herschel Walker trade netted the Cowboys 3 Super Bowls.
Yes.
So I don't know what the Houston Texans are going to go on to do. By all indications, they're going to be a powerhouse for years to come based on the assets we gave them. But all of that being said, if it's not the worst trade, it is unequivocally the second worst trade in the history of this game. I think the moment they made that trade, they were already rebuilding and had no assets to do it. Because you didn't have a first-round pick for 3 years. You didn't have a third-round pick for 2 years. You didn't have a fourth-round pick for one of those years. And so now they're really going to be in the throes of the rebuild. Now you're going to be in the basement, in the bellows of the rebuild.
Now, to be fair, some would argue the moment you took Baker Mayfield over Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, you missed. You missed.
None of those guys have a Super Bowl yet.
No, it's a miss.
No, that's a miss.
It's a miss.
Those are transcendent players.
I will say that it is a miss.
That's a miss.
But I will also say this. At the time, who was advocating? I mean, Josh Allen, I wanted them to take Josh Allen.
Josh Allen was in the discussion. Lamar Jackson was not.
Lamar was never in the discussion.
Well, that's on them. That's on you.
100%.
It's your job.
While we're talking about that, because there's one name that hasn't come up that I think should be talked about in this discussion, and this tweet is from the cardiac kid. He says, since Depot, who's Paul DePodesta, was hired in 2016, regular season record 48, 87, and 1. 48, 87, and 1. Now, he is the consistent link. He and Jimmy.
Yep.
They are the consistent link. I think Dorsey, history shows the good players we have on this roster were selected under Dorsey.
Dorsey drafted Denzel Ward, Nick Chubb, Myles Garrett.
He made the Teller trade.
Made the Wyatt Teller
Also
trade.
drafted Baker Mayfield.
Joe
which
Bitonio.
I know that we're not ready to say that was the best move with history as our friend.
What Baker's doing in Tampa was not going to happen here. Period.
Well,
it was not going to happen.
It's happening in Tampa. But here's the rest of that tweet. 48, 87, and 1. 2 playoff appearances. 1-1. That's not true because they lost both. They won a playoff game, but they're
1-2.
They're 1-2 in the playoffs. 77 draft picks, second most since 2016 behind Minnesota. Because Depot's thing is, give me that late round currency. Give it to me. I'll give you a third, give me a fourth and a fifth. He was big on accumulating picks. Well, it's great if they hit. If they suck, you're wasting currency. This is the one that blows my mind. Since 2016, no team in the NFL has spent as much money as the Cleveland Browns.
No. Well, the Deshaun contract really. But other teams have big quarterback contracts.
Deals that are in that neighborhood now.
The other teams have big quarterback contracts.
8th year for Depot, 48 wins, 1 playoff win. I don't know if Jimmy Haslam and J-Dub were watching Moneyball and they said, I want that guy. I want that guy. First of all, Moneyball was a farce. Nowhere in the movie Moneyball did they mention that they had a MVP shortstop in Miguel Tejada, or did they mention they had a lights-out pitching staff. All they focused on was Scott Hatteberg and one big at-bat. Yeah. Moneyball works. At the end of it, this is where I laughed. Even though Moneyball never led the Oakland A's to a World Series, Theo Epstein, employing the same Moneyball system in Boston, broke the Red Sox 77-year curse or whatever it was by winning the World Series using Moneyball. The Red Sox had a $200 million plus payroll that year.
We still ain't got 200.
Did he believe in analytics, Theo Epstein? Of course he did. Did he build his roster that way with a $50 million? No. He spent money. Yeah. And so the whole movie Moneyball is a farce. And by the way, Paul DePodesta, who was a baseball guy, hired to be a football guy, which is never going to cease to blow my mind, didn't have success building baseball teams.
Yeah.
So I got the question that I come away with, and we talk about rebuilds and draft picks and all this good stuff. The question that boils down to it is now, after this thing plays out and it don't work, are you comfortable with Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski scouting, picking, and anointing a brand new quarterback?
To answer that question, because that is the right question, to answer that question properly, I need this information. How many of those 77 draft picks were Andrew Berry's idea? Or how many of them did Paul DePodesta hand him a folder and say, here's your second round pick, here's your third round pick? I don't know. And until we know as fans, we can't say.
I feel like that's a blind study. You're not going to know that.
Well, there is one person that knows that.
Who?
Jimmy Haslam.
Okay.
He knows who's been pulling the string. Jimmy, you got bamboozled by Paul DePodesta, okay? You got fooled. He's not the genius you thought he was. He wasn't the genius that everybody thought he was in baseball. And he certainly, if he was fired today, how many people would hire Paul DePodesta to guide their franchise?
0.
If J-Dub was fired today, how many people would hire J-Dub to have the same role within their franchise?
0.
Okay. If Andrew Berry was fired today, would he work in the NFL again?
Oh, yeah.
100%.
For sure.
I think they stumbled in to Stefanski and Berry. Do it enough, you're bound to, a blind squirrel's going to find a nut. I think they got DePodesta Berry and Stefanski right. But here's the problem, and this is what my buddies at ESPN used to drive into my head. They kept saying, Jay, we know how NFL organizations work. We understand them. We cover them.
Yep.
We know them. We talk to them. We understand how a successful organization works. We know this organization, as long as he's the owner, cannot be successful because he thinks he knows more than he does, and he's hired the wrong people. He's listening to the wrong voices. So as long as that's the case, this is kind of where I am as a Browns fan. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If Jimmy is still making calls on quarterbacks and still making calls on who should ultimately be in charge of these decisions, then it's not going to work. Jimmy, run your truck stop. You must be pretty good at that because you've made a lot of money doing it.
He sold them all. He's out.
Well, he's done now.
Yeah.
So sit back and enjoy the fruits of your labor. But
play with the
you're trying to
grandkids.
catch lightning in a bottle. And that's what somebody told me about Jerry Jones once. They said, the problem with Jerry Jones is he was born on third and thought he hit a triple. He wasn't. When Jerry Jones got involved in the organization, Jerry Jones' first paragraph of his obituary, he fired Tom Landry, Jimmy Johnson, and Barry Switzer. That's what he did. What successes he had after he did that? None. He thought he knew more than he did, and he doesn't. And that's why the Cowboys are where they are for the last 30 years.
I don't know very many rich men who don't operate the same way.
You know why? Because they have egos. But smart rich men say, I'm going to know what I don't know. And what I don't know is football. Jimmy hasn't come to that conclusion yet. Jimmy thinks, I can pick him. I can pick him. Give me Johnny Manziel. Hell.
Well, listen, his rationale is if I make a bunch of mistakes, guess what? It still don't matter.
I'll buy my way out of it with money.
Y'all going to still show up.
That's the problem. We are the enablers.
Yep.
We keep watching. We keep buying this. We keep going to games on Sunday.
You know how much all this? You know how much all this costs? You know what type of? And
you're one guy.
And I'm one dude.
There's millions of us that can't break the string. We can't divorce ourselves from this team. But my buddies kept saying, "Do it. Just save yourself the future heartbreak and do it because you're waiting for a rainbow that's never coming."
You know, I'm sitting here thinking about this, and I have to probably think this through a little bit more. But this might be, it's a high bar. This might be the lowest point of the Haslam tenure because even at 0-16, 1-15, you were selling hope. You were selling it was going to get better in the future. You have 2 more years on this contract.
I know you do.
You have 2 more. And
you have 2.5 years.
You keep pushing the money forward. So you have more than 2 years of money left on this deal.
There is a way that there is a ray of sunshine. Look at what the 49ers did.
Well, with Mr. Irrelevant in the draft, they got lightning.
Which is why part of the reason I said you have to play DTR. You can't wait till December. You have to know, did you by chance run into a changeup? Did you run into it? Because DTR looked really good this summer. And I'm not saying he's an NFL starter. I don't know. But I think you at least have to give him a legitimate look and see.
That's fair.
Before and you can't wait till December. You got to know now. You got to know.
And as for losing Myles Garrett, guys, I think that ship has sailed. Myles Garrett
he's
is
got
going to
2 years left on his deal.
And he's going to say, get me the hell out of here.
He's got 2 years left on his deal.
I am not going to be the defensive version of Joe Thomas.
Now, listen, if they can find, that's why I say it's better to pivot now. Because if you catch lightning in a bottle, and you saw what happened last year, if you could catch lightning in a bottle with Winston or DTR, you could say, it ain't that bad.
We can save the season.
And it shows them, well, hold on, maybe this kid is the real deal.
Yeah.
Maybe we believe it. And then veterans will say, I'll sign up for that.
Look, do you think any veteran was thinking about asking to be traded after Joe Flacco last year?
No.
I don't either.
So that's what I'm saying.
I mean, Joe Flacco doesn't look like what a franchise is going to invest in. He's a 40-year-old quarterback. He's not the answer, of course not. But if he can be a bridge to the answer, then he's the answer for right now.
And let me tell you what, people will follow Jameis Winston.
I do think that's true. I think he's a leader. Guys love him.
They'll follow him. So
now Stefanski talks in 20 minutes, right? 12:30.
Yeah. So if we
I
see
am
anything,
very,
we'll hear it.
very curious to see, having a night to sleep on it, and hearing all of the national voices that were chirming. And it's rare, by the way, that the national voices are a chorus. But they're all singing off the same play sheet, every one of them.
It's obvious.
They're all saying what the 81% of the fans are saying and 100% of this panel is saying.
Well, Jay, we asked the
got to be benched.
Asked the chat, who's making the call? Is it Stefanski? Is it Haslam? 85% went with Haslam, over 900 votes. So
and they're getting that right
it's
too.
Even higher and
so
higher.
it's obvious as the nose on everybody's face. My hope here is that Kevin got home last night, had a heart-to-heart chat with his wife, slept on it, thought about, am I going to be a puppet and go down with what they want to do, or am I going to stand up for my beliefs and run things my way, and if it doesn't work out, then run me out of town on a one-way rail. I'm hoping between last night after the game and 20 minutes from now, Kevin sees the light and stands in front of the cameras in 20 minutes and says, We're going with Jameis this week.
Not going to happen.
Ever.
Let's not underrate Kevin Stefanski.
Not going to happen.
Ever.
Maybe
Not by
he's
Monday.
seen the light.
Not by Monday. Ain't gonna happen.
Ooh.
We'll monitor